All right, I am here with my guy Chase Minnifield, the CEO and founder, co-founder of EZTURN. How you doing, Chase?
I'm doing well, Greg. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm looking forward to speaking. So maybe we'll just take a second. Easiest way is just for anybody who doesn't know, you can give a quick overview of EZTURN.
Yeah, so EZTURN, we are a vendor management platform for multifamily housing, off-campus housing, and on-campus colleges. Specifically trying to speed up the process of when you bring workers to your site and allowing for them to be efficient in the work that they're doing. The cool thing about this is the fact that we solved a problem in student housing called TURN, and now in multifamily, we're doing a situation with centralization. And centralization of property operations is basically taking people off the site level and putting them at a higher level. So almost like sending people to the site to do work instead of keeping them there on site for when work comes about. So that's the charge we're leading from EZTURN side.
I love businesses like this because it's like in an area that people are sitting around all the time trying to come up with ideas, right? I want to start a company. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do all these different things. Where's a problem in the world I can solve? And these are the kind of things where like you almost have to have some type of intimate knowledge of a space, whether you were in it or someone who's in it, to be able to kind of think about something so niche as like student housing and this problem. Like, where did this idea come from?
Yeah, so this problem, I still don't know how I'm in this space, to be honest with you. Like looking at back from where like my education and like at playing football and getting back to here, I don't know where this part of the story. I never visualized this part of the story. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So essentially, like I got done playing football and I started a company called Helping Hands.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first company I started after football. And my goal was just to provide jobs for my like friends and family in the city of Lexington who I just seen just, hanging around, not doing much. Um, and I knew I knew I had a name and a brand that I could get in front of people for potential work opportunities. So I just tried to do that initially, and University of Kentucky is pretty much the largest player in business in the Lexington arena. So I was like, let's just figure out if we can do like move-in days and help around the property in some form of fashion with some physical labor stuff. And that's kind of how it started. And now 8 years later, for Helping Hands, and 5 years later for EZTURN, I'm truly a student housing, real estate, tech entrepreneur person. So this is the only sector I've been in and so forth. So I don't know nothing about no logistics or anything else, but I definitely know property management and dealing with properties right now. So
Are you from Lexington originally? Is that where you grew up?
yeah. I grew up in
Yeah.
Lexington.
So you ended up at UVA. I know you're based out of DC now, so you stayed in that area. You still go back to Lexington quite often. Do you have a home out there or anything like that?
I actually do. I have some real estate holds out there, which I rent out. But Lexington is my home. UVA in DC, Charlottesville, DC area, like that's like my second home. Uh, but when I'm going to see my grandmother, that's where home is.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So you obviously UVA have a really solid career there. You're a DB cornerback, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you're at least from what I read about you, you're expected to be drafted. Ended up going undrafted, signed as a free agent. Ended up having a couple of years in the league. Get injured, career's over. So you made a little bit of money along the way, not enough that you weren't ever going to work again. What was the idea behind starting a nonprofit? I mean, were you kind of thinking to yourself like this is something that's going to be able to pay my own bills, or were you thinking more about like how do I give back to the community first?
So Helping Hand is definitely for profit.
Oh, it is for profit. Okay, sorry about that.
Absolutely. I don't necessarily do anything for free.
Love
Uh,
it.
but it's more so about like how can I make a business, and then also how can I help people in my community. And we've probably created countless numbers of jobs for the people who are not the salary worker, right? And I think the non-salary worker people kind of get overlooked, like the $14 an hour, the $13 an hour, the $15 an hour workers, and the opportunities that exist in that space, right? So we've built a company that has I don't have an exact number, but man, since 2015, we've probably generated, I mean, and I'm talking across the country, not in Lexington, like not just in Lexington, like we've generated at least tens of fifties of thousands of jobs
It's
um,
amazing.
for just people in the community that are looking for jobs to pay their bills, pay their rent, put food on the table. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my
Yeah.
big accomplishment. I never wanted to like look past that. As far as like, because it gets frustrating dealing with like a business that's up dealing with like a lot of people around the country. But essentially, I always think about like, man, I'm my me paying out this payroll on a bi-monthly basis or weekly basis is some people are living off of that. Families are living off of that, and I think that's an important piece. And that was one of the things I just wanted to offer at the very beginning was job opportunities.
I love it, man. So how exactly does it work? Like, help me understand the business model behind it.
So Helping Hands is a full different business model than EZTURN, but
Sure.
they have a small connection, which we'll see if you pick up on. But essentially, Helping Hands, we started and we were going to do student housing services for the student housing apartment complexes that
Okay.
are universities. So when I was in school, around universities, it was just like houses. Like people, if you lived off campus, you lived in a small house, right? Now you go to a university, there's these large apartment complexes that
Hmm.
have, the rooftop pool. They got all these amenities to
Hmm.
to um, to cater to this generation, right? And with that became a big problem of basically a situation where when students moved out of the building, everybody moved out at once, and then the building was empty, and then they would give it 2 weeks to flip it and get back ready for the next school year of students. And that's where I implemented my company with helping with move-in day, basically helping people move in, doing the cleaning, doing the painting. We even did stuff like just helping with general maintenance, from like putting a body on site to like do like light bulb replacements. Like this is a space where most property managers are like all hands on deck, right? Like if you can help, if you're not going to quit, if you're a good worker, like we're going to find a way to pay you and get you out of there. So that's what Helping Hands was. And that's how we scaled this company. Like I scaled this company from just Lexington to then working nationally around the country. And in that process, I realized that this situation wasn't getting any easier. Like they were managing
Hmm.
us by basically giving us a piece of paper. They would say, "This is what you need to do today," and they give us a piece of paper, and then they would call us like halfway through the day and say, "Is this finished? Is this finished? Did you do this?
Sure.
Did you do that?" And I was like, if there was a technology that basically said, "Hey, this is where we're at. This is what we finished. This is what is done," it would basically make my job easier because I don't got to slow down dealing with this, but also make your job easier because now you have an idea of if you need to make any adjustments, right?
Hmm.
You have that real time data analytics and capability, and that's what EZTURN does. So Helping Hands was the service side of it. We were
Yep.
vendor on the site, and then EZTURN is the technology layer that organizes the full process of dealing with vendors.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And that answers really kind of my first, it wasn't even a question. It was more my statement at the beginning where, I love businesses like the one that EasyTurn is, where it's like you wouldn't even know that that was a problem unless you were in the
In it.
industry, right? And that's really what happened. And you described it really well and explained how that came to be. Has obviously, I mean, I'm just understanding the business side of things. Building a software platform is entirely more scalable and potentially lucrative than a services based business like Helping Hand. But has Helping Hand expanded out of the Lexington area? Are you working with
Yeah,
other?
it's one of the largest. I don't have a plaque or anything like this, but I think it's got to be one of the largest minority owned like student housing businesses in
Very
the country,
cool.
for sure. So we work across the country. We do multi-millions of dollars annually. We have about 70, 80 people we pay weekly. It's a
Yeah,
pretty, yeah.
good for you, man. And then you see the opportunity in the space with EasyTurn. You know that there needs to be a technology platform. Um, I've worked with a lot of ex athletes in my life. Technology isn't something that is always the thing that they're the best at. Not to stereotype any ex athletes. I was an ex athlete myself. Where do you start, man? How do you go about doing that?
That's an interesting thought, Greg, because I never really thought about that as far as like athletes don't necessarily deal with technology too well. Because I used to break down my football. So I played corner, and I used to break down the tape using Excel sheets. And I would use my Excel sheets, and I would like jot down as many data points as I can for each play. And then I would like watch a full game, and then I would watch another game, watch another game, watch another game. But I use the same like layer of like headers for each game. So therefore I could accumulate everything and then sort, right? I could sort and I could find tendencies on offense or on players
Sure.
based on the data I accumulated from watching the tape. So technology has always been like that's how I prepared.
Yeah.
And I always thought that, that was an important piece. And for any athletes listening, like learn Excel, like deal with Excel, deal with Microsoft Docs, like deal with the technology, use the technologies that are in place to be a better athlete. Because it definitely then correlates back to if you do get into business, if you do get into anything else, like you have some skill sets and a baseline. That's not just I'm not just a football player, right? Um, so technology has always been something that I've very been like interested in from the beginning. Now how I started was a different story. Like where do I get started? Because I'm not a coder. I didn't take CS
Sure.
class. Um, so essentially, I went to go get some, everybody asked me like, when you want to start a tech company, where do you start? I start with the vision, right? You start by like draw it out, write it out, design it out from your mind. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to get on the phone or on the iPad right away. You can just print like screens off, draw screens manually, and say,
Hmm.
this is how I want this to work. This is how I want this to operate. And that's what I started off with was a folder and a binder of just screens. And I was like, I want this screen to go to this screen. I want this to be able to do this. I want it then to take to this screen. I want this people to see this when this happens. Like I explained it and wrote out the entire process of how this needs to work. I then took that folder and binder and I went to a software development company, and I said, this is what I want to do. How much does it cost? Right? How much would it cost for you guys to do this?
Sure.
I then took it to the next company and said, how much does it cost for you to do this? The next company. So then I made it a bidding situation where I was going to make sure I got the best deal, right? So it
Yeah.
ended up being way cheaper than what I thought it was going to cost.
Hmm.
I did a payment plan concept with the group. So I didn't have to come out of pocket a full amount of money right out the gate. But got me like 5 installments. And next thing you know, we had customers, right? So
Yeah.
I got that done and we were off and running. So I think, that's how you get started. If you're trying to get started, you have an idea and you see the problem. It's a bigger risk not to do it than it is to figure out, if you can do it and spend some money on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, I know that space really well. I've been on a lot of parts of that. I've from working with firms to actually being the firm. My first company ever was exactly that. It was a software development company. We used to
So,
to work with entrepreneurs and build their products for them. Uh, you described it well, and clearly it worked out for you. It's not entirely intuitive, I would say. So I'm you should take some credit that it wasn't just like super obvious. Like you were able to connect some dots. So kudos to you for that, man. But no, that's awesome, man. Listen, building software is not easy. A lot of people try to do it. A lot of people build software. I guess maybe I should say it this way: building software that people use and are willing to pay money for is not easy.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely take some credit for that. Um, so talk to me a little bit about like the initial transition out of the NFL. I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs who were former professional athletes, and they talk a lot about this struggle that occurs when you leave the structure of athletics, right? I mean, from your days at UVA to the NFL, you have coaches, people telling you where to be, when to be there, what to do, how to do it. Now all of a sudden you're on your own, right? And obviously you were able to connect some dots. You're able to start Helping Hand. You've moved Helping Hand into EZTURN. Was it like intuitive for you, like, or was there a little bit of a period as you kind of had to figure things out?
I struggled deeply. I struggled deeply with my transition. Probably even like a borderline like depression type of state. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
where it wasn't necessarily the structure that I lost because I structure myself. Like I never really lived with like roommates and things of that nature. Like I was always what I consider to be a lone wolf type of personality. where you don't have to tell me what to do. I get up and do it type situation. So that doesn't necessarily affect me. It was more so the fact that I truly believe I didn't get what I was supposed to get out of the NFL. And I truly believe that I had the short end of the stick and that the story was more to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So that was where I was stuck at, was the fact of unbelief of this can't be the finale, right? Not with my track record. Because essentially, I mean, going into my senior year, I'm preseason All-American, number 2 corner in the country, all these different types of things, right? My dad's former NFL player in the 1980s All-Decade team. Like at every level, I've played the game and I've been the best at what I do. And I didn't think it was going to be no different in NFL. And I thought I was extremely capable of being, a 15-year player, multi-time Pro Bowl, opportunities, that the whole nine. I thought I was fully capable of that. And once you're done and it's like there's no way that I'm not wanted or valued. I think a lot of those athletes are starting to feel like that way, because if you see, like, I think DeMarcus Cousins just like put out a statement where he says he's the 3rd best center in the NBA, but he's not on a team right now. And I think that is a common statement for like somebody that's like extremely valued, but are you valued for that actual team is different. Like, you can be a good player, but are you actually somebody that's going to help this team win? And sometimes it's hard for you to feel like you're not capable, or somebody doesn't want you, and that there's that many players better than you. And that's the space that I struggled with, was trying to get over the concept of it's finale. This is put it in the grave. You know what I'm saying? That type situation. It was over.
Yeah. Did you stick around? Like, how long did you spend trying to continue the dream? Right. I mean, I knew a lot of guys that I played with, and yeah, I'm older than you are, but dudes that came out and spent like the first 5 years after college trying to make a team, right? And it'd be like camp, cut,
Yeah.
arena ball, cut, camp, cut, and it's just like, all right, man, you got to move on with your life.
Oh, that's a dangerous cycle. Like, really, one of the things that I've tried to do and get my story out there is to understand that, one, there's nobody that's doing anything for the person that is cut and is back on the street. Like, if you haven't played in the NFL and got some years underneath your belt, like you're not necessarily getting any support outside there. So I always say the most dangerous person in the college football locker room is the person that is a borderline NFL player. Because if you're a borderline NFL player, your dream is to go play in the NFL, but the NFL may cut you right away, and therefore then you got to train. Or if you don't train, then it's really over. And once you keep training, you go try again, you get another opportunity, you get cut again. Now you're looking at 2 years, haven't made any solid income or built any solid career outside of playing football. But the university is not helping you no more. NFL is not helping you no more. That is the lost person that I see that doesn't necessarily nobody even speak up for when it's in the college environment and somebody falling short. But ultimately for me, it was about a year, I say. I gave it a year, and my dad really supported me in that space. I went up to Canada for like a training camp, and I ended up tearing my Achilles up there for preseason game 1.
That's brutal.
In Canada, and that was kind of like the final marking. But before I went up there, I started helping hands, and I didn't have that same feeling of like I don't have anything else to do. Once I was done with the Washington Redskins or Commanders, I didn't have that same feeling. When I was done there, I was like, what am I going to do now? But when I started my business and I was like having some traction, I was sending emails and I was getting some sales meetings going, I felt like, man, there's something else I can get done here. And I didn't feel like I was just done. I felt like I had something else to go do.
Yeah. Well, so what, going back to those guys, what advice would you give those guys? That, you figured a lot of this stuff on your own. Sounds like you have a really good support system around you. But these guys that are out there, they're struggling. They're the borderline guys. They've been cut. They're coming back. They cut again. It's like, okay, now what? Like, what would you tell these guys?
Sharpen your tool set,
Mm-hmm.
Get your work on other skills. I think you can get caught up in doing 24 hours of what you like to do, right? And that could be basketball, football, baseball, lifting weights, running, etc. Like you can get playing video games, like you can get
Hmm.
spending full days and not gaining no value outside of that sport or that activity. Um, and I think that is the most dangerous place you can be in. You may be working a job that you don't care about, for some income and stuff like that, but you need to get into like, what is your passion? What is something that you may be interested in doing? Like, are you interested in real estate? Do you want to go take a real estate course? Like, go find something that you say, all right, this may be something I may have to start. I would be interested in if this doesn't work out. Like, start building that plan out.
Yeah. I mean, I saw you got a master's degree in sports administration right after you got
Yeah.
done playing. Was your thought that you would go into like coaching or, something, go work at a school or something? Like, what was your thoughts back then?
Um, for real, I used the sports administration degree to understand business.
Yeah.
Use that to understand business and to understand business with a sports twist on it. So I would be more engaged in the content. So I use that from that perspective. Now, I also wanted to be how I got into that program was I told them I want to be an athletic director, which is still true. I would love to be an athletic director, like to finish off my, if I'm not an owner of a team, athletic director is like a second grade position, right?
That's
Um,
right.
so that's where I wanted to finish at, but the business side of things, learning law, learning marketing, learning all these different types of things, finances. Like I learned all that in sports administration.
That's right. So did you seek out any type of mentorship or did you just have some, I mean, was your dad a big help for you?
Yeah, so I actually worked for my dad um, for that year time frame before I went to Canada and got injured. I worked for him. He has his own business, and one of the things he did was he put me on a brand new project. So I didn't necessarily do what his business does, like to make most of their money. I started with a fresh slate, so I had to understand like growing something. Um, and I didn't realize he was doing that at the time. But I think it's kind of purposely what he did to kind of make me understand like this is how you grow something. So understanding full sales techniques from building target lists out, making
Mm-hmm.
cold calls, doing sales pitches, marketing the product, all those different type of things like that. So he had just recently started a product that he was trying to spin off out of his original company, and I was basically in charge of that and had to do it from the full nine. Was in charge of trying to get revenue, was in charge of client meetings, was in charge of the full thing. So after I seen I could do that, I think I was ready for me to take the training wheels off and start from there. So
That's great, man. So, you mentioned a little bit about, name recognition, a little bit of celebrity. Obviously, just the fact of being a professional athlete can open up some doors. How did you leverage that? And I mean that in a positive way. You think of a lot of athletes that are getting done playing and they're looking for their next step. There's resources that are available to them. What's some advice on how they can use those resources to open up doors for themselves?
yeah, so one, you got to be able to put yourself out there. I think a lot of times athletes are pretty like to themselves, not necessarily really going out and say, hey, I would like to talk to this person, I'd like to meet this person, type situation. But LinkedIn has been like one of the greatest tools for people who seem hard to reach, right? Like if you are somebody that is a big name for your university, like get on there and see who else is the UVA or the whatever college you went to connections, right? And just start connecting with people, see what they're doing, keep up with them, shoot them a message, say thanks for connecting, that type situation. So for me personally, I feel like that's you can't speak on how valuable that is to use what you already have. Like you may not have everything, but what you do have is this. Now, how can you execute with that?
Yeah. So I know now, personally, I'm well past any of those days. Most people look at me, they would never know I was even an athlete. But I played offensive line back in the day. Big guy, come out. A lot of your background's football based. You kind of talk in a lot of the football analogies. You compare a lot of things, and as many doors as being an ex-athlete and especially being an NFL athlete like yourself can open, you do kind of run into some roadblocks, right, with people who may not believe that you can do something because you kind of get this like dumb jock stereotype, right? There's actually a counter to the advantage of the athlete, especially in tech, right? I mean, there's some bias there as well. How have you faced that, and how have you overcome some of that?
I don't know. Maybe my team thinks that. They may think that, but I know one thing that I always overcome is that my work ethic speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Like my work ethic won't, like, you can call me whatever you want to call me, but at the end of the day, my
Hey,
work ethic.
I'm not calling you that. I'm
No, no,
just
no.
saying that
I'm
there's
not
some
saying
people that do.
I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying like everybody in general. Like I was at the stage when I was in the NFL, like Twitter was just popping, right?
Yeah.
And like, you get on there, if you search your name on Twitter, they talking all kind of crazy stuff about you.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like if you can deal with that as an athlete, I ain't really worried about what other people are saying. I think the hardest thing for me is like you said, validating your product, validating your idea, and understanding that you can scale this. I think there is a certain perception that, like, okay, you're gritty, you can get us to this point, but are you able to run financials? Are you able to understand profit and loss statements? All those different types of things to get it from, this level to this level of the company. Like, I think that may become like a sort of some type of thought process, but that's up to you to determine and to display what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. I always say that everybody has 24 hours in a day. How you choose to use them is up to you, right? So if you want to learn something, it's out there and it's available. I call YouTube University. If there's
That's
something I
right.
don't know about, like I'm going straight on there, I'm finding out, and I'm going to do taking classes, taking hours, all those different type of things. It just like keep sharpening your tools.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, YouTube, you can learn how to build a business model to go raise capital, or it can help you understand how to fix a leaky pipe under your sink, right? It's
Yeah. You can
like
get
what?
better with Chat GPT now. Like you can definitely figure something out. Say
Yeah,
that's
man. So let's talk about Chat GPT. I'm a big advocate. I think it's probably the biggest platform that we've seen since the iPhone in regards to just going to spring innovation. I just think there's going to be so many new companies, so many new opportunities going to be built upon the back of AI. Have you guys looked at it within EZTURN
oh,
or
absolutely.
just in life? Yeah.
Well, we haven't implemented it into the product. I think it's going to end up in being in every single type of product in some form or fashion. But we haven't implemented it in our product yet. But as far as like me telling like my teams to be more efficient, like what are we researching this for this many hours and stuff like that? Like let's see if we have you tried this yet. If you've tried it and you still don't have nothing, then okay. But if you
Yeah.
haven't tried it, then we just wasted a couple hours for sure. So I find myself like just doing like generic stuff. Like I know I need to write a LinkedIn post for content. I'm like, all right, give me a LinkedIn post for this, right? Like I don't even want to try to think of like some type of way to form this message anymore, which may be bad, but it's ultimately is better for me because I'm my time is the most valuable thing
You're
I have.
more efficient. Yeah. Yeah. I find that like you can have it write something for you, but I find like for me sometimes where I have a thought in my head and then I could spend, 30 minutes making it like articulate and say it the way I want to say it. And now I can like just write it sloppy. Like get
Yeah,
my thoughts out there and then just have it edit it. And it's like it's great.
yeah,
Post it. Saves so much time.
exactly. So
Yeah. So easy turn, man. Like what's where are you guys? Like where are you guys in the company life cycle? Are you gonna grow organically? You're looking to raise outside capital?
looking to raise capital right now. In the mix of talking to different VCs and potential investors on our seed round. This would be. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, we've been scrappy founders. We've been building this bootstrapped. Our company's 13 right now, so 13 people.
Mm-hmm.
Doing solid numbers and traction in the industry. It's been, we were first to market in this space, so essentially we had to convince people to do things a different way. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that that takes a little bit of time, right? Like some people have to try something else and say, all right, this may not work. Let me go see this type of situation. Like, we've seen the whole nine in trying to create like this new marketplace, or this new opportunity is the fact of like people have done things this way for a long period of time. They've done it with Excel, they've done it with whiteboards, they've done it with text messages and emails. What's the point of changing? What's the point of changing, right? So, you know, I've done it this way, I've been successful, I haven't lost any money. We saying, well, this is the new way of doing things. This is your efficiency. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is you saving your time. This is you saving your money. But sometimes you gotta put your hand on the stove, right? Sometimes you gotta put your hand on the stove. And we had some people that start using it and they were starting to get better. And now we see the other people that weren't using it saying, all right, we got to figure out how to get better. So I always say, if you are out there, make sure you take care of your first customer. You take care of your first customer, and your first customer comes your second customer. Your second customer comes your third customer. But if you lose out on that first customer, it might be your last days.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that are so concerned with growing and scaling and bringing on new customers that they sort of neglect that core customer. And that core customer, if they're a champion of yours, they're not just going to give you that referral and recommendation business, but they're going to be a partner and going to help you build that product. Make sure you have product market fit as you expand.
Yeah, exactly. So that's right where we're at right now. We're at the point where, the market has accepted us. They've accepted us and we're here to stay. And now we're starting to work on different things, work on XX things. But I think we've checked that box of will they be here? Will they
Yeah,
be here in the next 2 or 3 years? I think we've checked that box, and we're excited to continue to add value in this space in the real estate property tech operation space.
absolutely. Who are you working with? Anybody that's helping you raise capital right now, or are you doing it on your own?
Doing it on my own for the most part. We have some previous investors that we will reach out to and see if they have any connections to let us know. But I'm just reaching out cold mostly, which doesn't necessarily work for people that raise capital. I've been successful in raising capital. That's not necessarily my strong suit. Like my strong
Yeah,
suit is door knocking, getting people in the door, getting opportunities for us.
sure.
My strong suit. So I heard a quote the other day that they said if you're working on selling your product, you're cutting yourself short. You should be working on selling your business. So I've
Like
kind of
that.
switched. I've kind of switched my thought process from like actual sales to now selling my business, which is raising capital, looking for potential partners, long term stuff like that. So that's where I put my time and focus and efforts.
Nice. As you've built your own team here, you said you're 13 people. I know you got a bunch of people at Helping Hands.
Yeah.
Are you you look at hiring ex athletes, or is it is if they're there, it's a best candidate. Kind of it is what it
I
is.
would love to hire ex athletes. I don't, I guess it's not necessarily it's been more of an ask for me in the service side, which may be saying something. Like on the service side, I see on my Helping Hands, I see what I'm hiring, like my whole team is athletes like over there, right? But then on my tech side, I don't know, I think I may have a couple like high school athletes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Middle
yeah,
school, that type of stuff.
yeah.
But overall I'm dealing with two different brands, two different people, two different opportunities, two different needs, right? Type situation. My main goal at Helping Hands is to hire people that aren't going to drop the road.
That's
Like
right.
things are going to get difficult. I know things are going to get hard, but are you the person to push through? Right. That's what I'm hiring at Helping Hands. At EZTURN, we're looking for people who are more so innovative and creative thinking outside of the box. Right. Like I take everybody on that I hire. I'm like, I don't want you to listen to me and do what I say. I want you to listen to me and then say, is what he's saying the best way of doing this? Right. And then let's talk about it. Let's debate that concept. Right. Like that's what I'm looking for over here, because at the end of the day, I don't know, never want to be the smartest person in the room. And I know that the people that I'm surrounding myself with at EZTURN, they're all there for a specific reason that they do well. And I want them to bring their specific opinion to the room. Otherwise, I should just do it myself, right? And that's not what I'm here to do.
That's right. That's right. How are you managing your time? I mean, running two companies at the same time, different teams. Is there much overlap besides you? Like, do you have people that are no? It's all
I'm
you.
all over that. And I'm really trying to get out of Helping Hands. So I would consider myself a Helping Hands to be like chairman of the board type person, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't do much over there. But I do get called when something goes wrong. Like that's my role. But EZTURN, I'm way more in the weeds. I'm product vision. I'm dealing with marketing, or overseeing marketing, dealing with the account teams, things of that nature. So way more involved with EZTURN. But EZTURN is so small in the problem that it's going to solve right now. I think that the problem that EZTURN is going to solve is going to change the way the world runs in real estate operations, from hotels to short Airbnbs to multifamily to student housing to single family homes. Like I feel like it's going to operate where almost in an Uber style model, where you schedule what work you need to be done, and people say, oh, I can do this work for you. They come to the site, they do the work, and they go from there. So we're starting on the apartment community, but I think it's going to operate across all real estate sectors.
Interesting. I didn't catch that part of it. Yeah. So there's marketplace aspect of this where if I need to turn over a building and I need X amount of resources, that you can put these requests in and then it can connect you with the resources to fill these needs.
Exactly. Exactly. So we think we're at the tip of this iceberg.
Yeah.
Um,
Have you started that yet? Or I mean, is that roadmap type thing?
that's roadmap, but we have the foundation for it, right? And a lot of people that could possibly pull this off don't have that foundation that we've built with this from managing the vendors in student housing, right? So it's going to come into a logistics play with property operations where we can manage people's day to day and kind of put like time frames on specific job types and stuff like that. So it's coming, it's coming. We are right there at the edge of it, but that is our selling point into the multifamily space, which we think is going to open up doors into the next sectors and the next sectors and the next sectors. So we're excited about where we're going.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And you are in that kind of uniquely positioned place where with the software piece and then you have the helping hand side of it. I mean, you essentially have both sides of the marketplace already in place, right? I mean, you know the business pretty well. Well, cool, man. So you're going to look to raise a little bit of capital, product roadmap in place. I mean, when you're going out there and when you are talking to investors or you plan to here in the near future, is the idea to invest money in technology? Is it building out the marketplace? Is it go to market? A little bit of all.
Sales, uh,
Sales.
we're focusing on growth right now. We've never put any dollars behind our sales department. Like everything right now is it's essentially like us working on um the either the product or the account team, right?
Yeah.
So essentially trying to put some fire behind the sales department and see how fast can we take this thing off going forward.
Good for you, man. Anything we missed? Any last words?
Um, no, I don't have any last words from my perspective, but I think that you touched on an important piece, and that was the piece of what does an athlete do when they're in this space of feeling like their wheels are just turning,
Yeah.
not necessarily gaining no traction. It's a space where I definitely feel for people, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to just say for anybody in those spaces that you know understand that people have been in that situation as well, right? And go out there and talk to other athletes, go ahead and talk to other people and try to figure out things that they've done. Don't handle those things by yourself. Because if you do handle those things by yourself, it usually turns into a dark spiral of
Yeah.
what the heck's going on. So I did want to make sure I touched on that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. Who should they reach out to? I mean, I think conceptually you got this concept of athletes have been used to working with coaches their entire lives, whether it's strength coaches, nutrition coaches, their
Yeah.
position coaches, head coaches. Is there a network out there for athletes to get out and they can tap into mentors and coaches?
I know definitely the NFL has things like that if you may not able to make it to that level. If you don't make it to that level, that may be a little bit more difficult. But in general, you should have some type of group, some type of accountability group, some type of mentorship, some type of friends that you're dealing with. I think that problems exist when you try to take on everything by yourself,
Yeah,
right? Problems exist when you try to do that. So if you can just get you a solid circle, people won't let you fall.
that's right. That's right. No, I agree, man. It's funny. I started this podcast. It was really kind of a passion project, if anything, and it came from my time of running an organization and growing and scaling an organization, and I constantly would reflect back on my own athletic career, just like little like analogies, just about like resilience and mindset and huddles and culture and teamwork and all these little cliches that all athletes deal with that just apply so well into the professional life. And as I started having more and more conversations with people like yourself, who successful athletes who've gone on to become successful entrepreneurs, the one consistency across the board is there's this little dark period that existed in between my sports career is over and now I got to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So it's really I'm glad you brought that up. It's kind of your last little parting shot there.
Yeah, that's my parting shot, man. Is that get around a group of people. That's it.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. Well, hey, brother, I appreciate you come on the show. It was great to talk to you. I'm super impressed with what you've accomplished, man. I just love it. I love entrepreneurs in general. I just have such a high level of respect for people who are able to, make something out of nothing. And obviously I know what it took to be, for you to be an elite athlete in the first place. So congrats on all the success and all the luck in the future.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate you having me on.